They are hailing us.
Open a channel.
We are the Borg. You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
They've locked onto us with a tractor beam.
Borg vessel. This is Captain Janeway of the Starship Voyager. I have tactical information about species 8472. I want to negotiate.
Negotiation is irrelevant. You will be assimilated.
Hello, thanks for joining me today for a brief update on the Ukrainian incursion into the Russian Kursk Oblast, which commenced on August 6, 2024. With the new year, I decided I don't want to be constrained to any regional area or theater of operations, so I'm just going to be bouncing around a little bit this year. Last year, I was fascinated by Zelensky's decision to do this, to actually conduct the incursion into Russia, into the Kursk Oblast, because there's little operational or strategic value aside from the Kursk nuclear power plant, which was never really within reach of the UA. But it has been interesting to follow. I respect the Ukrainian fortitude and resistance to the Russians, but I feel that the loss of life was needless, as the defense of the Eastern Front should have always remained their primary focus. Anyways, that's just my opinion. Here I threw together a side-by-side comparison of the maps, courtesy of the ISW, from 3 weeks into the incursion back in August of 2024, and then ISW's map from just yesterday afternoon, January 8th. As you can see, the Russians have reclaimed at least half of the land seized by the Ukrainian army back in August of last year. I remember from last summer that Kornevo was where most of the fighting was taking place, and the Russians defended Kornevo very well. And as you can see, Kornevo is now well behind enemy lines. The Russian main effort in Kursk now is to retake Sudza. As you can see, they're closing from the southeast at Makhnovka. They've made marginal advances from the southeast in the last 24 hours. The Russian Southern Military District seems to be feeding troops into the region with the addition of the 49th Combined Arms Army. If you remember from last summer, they were only providing token resistance from the Baltic Sea Fleet's 810th Naval Infantry Brigade and the VDV, but they really seem to be bearing down with the robust force flow into the Oblast. So you can kind of see how the Russians execute their attritional warfare. They play the long game, and that's what the West can't seem to grasp. Even after countless historical examples, even Napoleon commented on the Russian military mindset that the Russians have European discipline with Asian tyranny. That quote, being more than 200 years old, still seems to apply. I just heard that quote today, in all honesty, from a blogger I follow, Willie OAM. I highly recommend his channel if you want the deep dive updates on the war in Ukraine. Honestly, it's been a while since I've looked deep at the Eastern Front, but in the Donetsk, it was very evident to see how the Russian incremental advances on Pokrovsk from the south is taking shape since I last looked. Once again, you can see their war of attrition unfolding right in front of your eyes. This is case in point why Kursk was a bad idea. The Ukrainian manning and resources should have been all in on the defense of Pokrovsk, as it's a vital logistics hub, because it's looking like Pokrovsk will fall. You don't need to be a graduate of the War College or even an analyst to see how the Eastern Front is expanding in favor of the adversary here. Now, ISW, which I respect greatly, continues to downplay Russian advances and uses words like crawling to describe Russian advances. But once again, it doesn't matter. An advance is an advance. It's attritional warfare. One interesting report that I read was that Russian units of the 2nd Combined Arms Army were transporting troops to the fight in Pokrovsk, in Mirnograd actually, which is just east of Pokrovsk, in civilian vehicles. I read about this weeks ago, and then I read about it just yesterday. So if true, that paints a bleak picture of the logistics backbone of Russia's 2nd CAA, which is one of their larger combined arms army. So is it anybody's war? I don't know, I don't think so, but it certainly illustrates just how bad off the Russian army is as well. Lastly, from ISW, an update to Russian technological updates are the increased use of drones attached to fiber optic cables. This is significant because these drones would be resistant to electronic warfare interference from Ukrainian jamming sources. ISW reports that these drones are slower and less maneuverable, But in my opinion, this seems to be a fair trade-off given the prevalence of jamming technologies in 2025. I'm going to reduce the length of these videos in order to provide abbreviated updates. So thanks for watching today, and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video or found any of the updates useful. Thanks again, and hope to see you next time.